theyeshiva.net.
Okay, Tayir Yidin. We're holding Daf Chaf Amud Aleph. This is the final blot of this sugya of Reb Chanina's Gana Koyanim, one of the main sugyas in Shas that gives an overview of many of the laws of Tumah and Tahara. So we're up to Daf Chaf Amud Aleph. We're middle of the page. Not in the middle of the page, we're holding on top of the page. Actually, the second line from the top. Let's remember our discussion. You remember? We are all busy with a needle. Oy, the needle may have touched me. So we have here the situation of an animal that was offered in the Beis HaMikdash, and when the Kohen opened up the animal, when he cut open the animal, he finds a needle in the flesh of the animal. This needle is somehow tameh. Why is the needle tameh? The Gemarah established that there may be two reasons for this. The Mishnah just assumes this is a Mishnah in Adius, Reb Chanina's Gana Koyanim teaches us that the needle is tameh. Why? Rav said, because a person lost a needle, the needle was tamei mace, it came in contact with a corpse, or came in contact with somebody who was in contact with a corpse, and when the animal is opened, the person recognizes that this is the needle, so the needle is tamei. Rabbi Yossi gave a different explanation, Rabbi Yossi bar Ravin. The Chachamim were goyzer that all Suffolk Kalim, any Keli that you find outside of Yerushalayim, is in a state of Suffolk Tumah, because you don't know if the Keli might have come in contact with Tumah, and therefore the Chachamim were goyzer that all Suffolk HaKelim, whenever you have a Keli that you find outside of Yerushalayim and you're not sure its status, you assume that it may be Tameh. Not in Yerushalayim, because over there they assume Tahara, but outside of Yerushalayim they assume Tumah. And they didn't assume that the Keli would be an Ava Tumah, because that's very rare. But they assumed that maybe the Keli would be a Rishon Tumah, because that's much more common. This cow came in muzzled to Jerusalem. So that means it didn't swallow the needle in Yerushalayim, swallow the needle before it came into Yerushalayim. So when you open the stomach when you open the cow and you find the needle, we have a Suffolk Rishon Tumah. Whether you learn it like Rav or like Rabbi Yossi, the needle is Tameh. Whether it's a biblical tumah, you know for sure it's a tamei mace, or it's a rabbinic tumah because of a suffix, but it's tamei. Therefore, the basar that touched the sakin is tamei. Because the sakin touched the basar. The basar may be a rishon l'tumah. Why is it a rishon? Because if the sakin touched somebody who's a tamei mace and the sakin is an av, so the basar is a rishon. This basar may be a sheni l'tumah. If the sakin is midirabanan or rishon l'tumah because of suffix, the basar is a sheni. But the basar is tumah, you can't eat it. This meat has to be burnt. It touched the tameh needle. That's the explanation of Reb Chanina. What about the knife that cut the flesh and the hand of the kohen and the kohen himself? They remain pure. Why do they remain pure? Well, we can understand. If you learn that the needle was a rishon l'tumah, right? So when a rishon l'tumah, a keli that's a rishon touches another keli, nothing happens. So my knife touched the needle, nothing happens. I touch a needle that's a rishon, nothing happens to me. A keli and a person can only become tummy from an avat tumah, not from a rishon. So I don't care if I touch the needle. The hands of the kohen are also not tameh, because the chachamim were not geyser tumas yadayim in the Beis HaMikdash. Even according to Rav, who says this needle is an avat tumah, so if an avat tumah touches the knife should become a rishon. Or if a person touches an avat tumah, the person should become a rishon. We're still not tameh. Why? Because we're not sure that I touched the needle. We have a suffix if I touched the needle. Who says I touched the needle? Maybe I didn't touch the needle. I was cutting the meat. I didn't touch the needle. Maybe I did. Maybe my knife touched it. Maybe my knife didn't. The meat for sure touched the needle. The needle is in the meat. And the meat is one piece. So if a part of the meat got tameh, the whole meat gets tameh. You can't say only the part that touched the needle. Remember, if tumah touches a piece of food, the whole food is tameh, right? The meat and the animal is one entity. So if the needle touched the meat, and there's no question because you found the needle in the meat, so the whole meat is tameh. That's not a question. But me, maybe I touched it, maybe I didn't. Maybe my knife touched it, maybe not. I don't know that my knife touched it. And since it's a suffix, and the azara is considered a rishus harabim, so suffix tumah b'rishus harabim is tahar. And therefore, the knife is tahar, the kohen is tahar. My yadayim touched the basar. My hands touched the basar. I know the basar can't make me tameh. Because again, the basar at best is a rishon, and it's not going to make me tummy. But my hands touch the basar. But again, ein tumas yadayim b'mikdash. The rabbinic tumah of hands that we're so careful with to wash our hands before bread, that doesn't exist in the Beis Hamikdash, and therefore Reb Chanina's view is maintained and explained why Reb Chanina's Gan HaKoyanim taught this halacha. What's the logic behind it? What's the halachic mechanism behind it? That's basically the summation of what the Gemarah explained in the Mishnah and Eidius to explain Reb Chanina's view about the needle that was found in the meat of a carbon in the Beis Hamikdash. The Gemarah now asks a basic question that somebody raised, and a much more, did we forget that food doesn't become tameh if it has not been made wet? Food doesn't become tameh. The pasuk tells us clearly in Parshas Shmini that food to become tameh, it has to first become susceptible to tumah. What makes it susceptible to tumah? One of the seven beverages came in contact with the food with the consent of the owner. Where did this happen? You shechter an animal, you bring it out, you take a knife, you're cutting it open, and now you're telling me that the needle makes the meat, the food, tameh. But this food never got wet. Did I bring water and rinse it? That's what the Gemarah says. That's the question. Al Chafam Aral of the second line. V'habasar tameh, hai basar diskasher b'mai. With what did this basar become susceptible to tumah, that it should be susceptible to the tumah of the needle? Eichel needs to become wet with one of the seven liquids. Gewaldige question.
But isn't meat always wet? Isn't meat always wet? Because our body consists of...
You need the seven liquids, not just
blood.
Not just it's natural. So you're going to say blood? When you shecht an animal, there's going to be blood in that meat. There's no question. When he's cutting open the skin and the meat to cut it up, there's going to be blood. That's a great answer. You don't need to go further. And blood is one of the seven liquids. Yad, shachadam. Let's remember, right? We have yayin, wine. We have dvash. We have honey. We have shemen, oil. We have chalav, milk. We have tal, dew. And then we have, of course, blood, and we have water. Yad, shachat, dam. That's usually the siman. So blood is one of them. Name of this kasher bedam. If you're going to tell me that it was the blood that came out of the behemoth during the shchita, okay, that's a fine answer. But is it? Reb Chia, the son of Abba, said, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Minayin ledam kachim she'enei machshir. How do you know that dam kachim, the dam of karbonis, is not machshir? It does not make the food susceptible to tumah. Shenemer, it says by blood, lo yistechlenu ala aretz tishpechenu kamayim. Don't eat it. Pour it out on the earth like water. This is the source that blood is compared to water, which is why it's one of the seven liquids that makes something susceptible to tumah. The Torah in Parshas Shmini says, if water falls on the food, on the seed, but dam is like water. But from here we learn that there is a caveat. Dam shenishpach kamayim machshir, she'enei nishpach kamayim enei machshir. Blood that you may pour out on the ground and let it get lost like water, that's the blood that is compared to water that makes something susceptible to tumah. But blood of karbonis, that's not nishpach kamayim. You can't just let it get lost and just pour to the ground, pour to the earth. You're obligated to receive it in a vessel and sprinkle it on the altar. This does not have the halacha of mayim that makes something susceptible to tumah. Because the Torah says, ala aretz tishpechenu kamayim, talking about regular blood. So we learn which is the blood like mayim, the one that you could just let flow on the earth. It could just go get lost.
That's the same, just receiving.
Right, but from this pasuk we learn that the comparison of blood to mayim, it doesn't say ala aretz tishbechenu, it says kamayim. So we learn which dam does the Torah hold as a liquid equal to water in terms of the halachas of water. Only the blood that's not blood of karbonis. You shecht a regular animal, that blood, you don't have to do anything with that blood. You don't have to receive that blood. So you're right. The chemistry may be the same, but because it has a different definition in terms of halacha, it's dam kachim, it's not dam chulin. Dam chulin you don't have to accept in a keli. You don't need it. But dam kachim you do need to accept. So it's not ala aretz tishbechenu. It's not ala aretz tishbechenu. So then I don't say kamayim anymore. Yeah, exactly. So this blood does not make the meat susceptible to tumah because it's not like mayim. It's not, because it's not ala aretz tishbechenu. Why does the Torah say ala aretz tishbechenu kamayim? What do you need an example of water for? Just say ala aretz tishbechenu. Don't eat it. You don't even have to say ala aretz tishbechenu. Just say don't eat the blood. If I don't want to pour it on the ground, what if I want to put it somewhere else? I mean, you want to keep it in some vessel and not eat it and throw it out? I don't know. So the Torah is teaching us something. Kamayim. That it has halacha like water. But this is a qualification. Only this dam is like water. Yeah, you don't have to collect it. Oh, it pours on its own, yeah. Oh, that's what you mean. No, but al aretz tishbechenu just means you let it flow. Yeah, you let it pour. Yeah. I'm sorry, what? Profane blood. Profane blood is compared to water, not blood of kachim. Atazai. So this blood cannot do the trick. Let's see Rashi. Look Rashi. Different halacha. Yeah. Take a look in Rashi. Rashi, the 1, 2, 3. Third Rashi from the top, Chafam at Aleph, Hai Basar de Skasher B'mai. Look Rashi. Hachenami Matzi Boy Akra. The Gemarah could have also asked this question on a pasuk, not on a Chanina. The pasuk says, "Habasar asher yiga b'chol tamei lo yeyachol." Right? Be'eshi sarif. The pasuk says in Sav, any basar that touches any tamei shouldn't be eaten; it should be burnt. You can ask the same question: Mayis kasher? How did the meat become susceptible to tumah? But ve'ikala meimer over there, it's not such a question because you could say basar de krap shita de ike hechsher tuva. The meat the pasuk is talking about there is hechsher. You know why? The basar shel shlamim nechel b'chol ha'ir or lechol adam v'sham medichin noiser and mevashla noiser ve'ike hechsher tuva. The meat of a carbon shlamim, which the pasuk is talking about, could be eaten in the whole city of Jerusalem. Could be eaten by every single Jew who's pure, and therefore, before you eat meat, you rinse it and you cook it. Whether you're rinsing it or you're cooking it or you're doing both, there's a lot of water there. So there's a lot of water there. It's susceptible to tumah, so it's not a question. But this behemoth in this mission is talking about a behemoth where they found in the meat a needle in the azar, in the place of the shchita. Where did the basar become hechsher for tumah? That's the question. In other words, the question could be on the pasuk in Chumash. Why is it a question on Reb Chanina's testimony? The pasuk says that basar of carbon that becomes tamei should be burnt. How did it become tamei? But over there it's not a question because the pasuk is not talking about a particular place. You could say at some point if the basar got wet and then it became tamei, you're not allowed to eat it anymore. If I take my carbon pesach home, right, my meat home, and I'm rinsing off, okay, over there you're actually barbecuing it, so you're not cooking it in water. You know, actually, very good. You're not cooking it. But if I have another carbon, my carbon shlum, my carbon tider, and I cook up the meat in a little bit water, and it gets tamei, whoops, you got to burn it. You can't eat it anymore. So it's not a question. But here it happened in the azar, in the place of the shchita. So you weren't cooking it yet.
Maybe the knife was wet.
So the question, the Gemarah says, ve'ela, you could say something else. The skasha b'mashka basement b'chaya. It became susceptible to tumah through the liquid in the basement b'chaya, which is the butchering place in the Beis HaMikdash. They used to have a place called, what we called it before, basement b'chaya, the butchering section in the Beis HaMikdash, where they used to take all the meat and prepare it. They would cut it up, and part of it had to go to the altar, part of it had to be burnt on the altar, part of it was eaten, and they would rinse it, of course, because there was a lot of blood there, and they rinse it. So that's what happened. And over there they didn't find the needle right away. They found it over there a few minutes later. He says, no, because Rabbi Yossi, the son of Rabbi Chanina, said, Mashke beis mitbachaya. The liquids in the butchering section, loy dayan shein dacha, not only do they remain pure on their own, ela shein machshirin. They don't even make other food susceptible to be mekabel tumah. So here again we're stuck. You can't say that this water in the butchering section that they used to use to rinse the karbonos would make the food susceptible to be mekabel tumah. Now, it is true, the Maharam Chalva, one of the Rishonim says, Rabbi Moshe Chalva says, the Gemarah could have said here what the Gemarah said early on, Daf Tezayin Amud Aleph. And that's what the Gemarah said, that Rabbi Yossi was talking about the blood in the butchering section. But even he would agree that the water in the butchering section would make food susceptible to Mekabel Tumah. The Gemarah could say that, because the Gemarah makes that distinction. In other words, he doesn't say what's talking about blood or water. Maybe he's talking only about blood. But the Gemarah wants to give a much broader answer, where you b'chlal don't have to force yourself to say that it's about the liquid in the Beis HaMikveh. Meaning the Gemarah is going to give a much more expansive answer that doesn't require us to believe that it's only the liquid in the butchering section, so that we don't, even though there is a way to explain and answer the question that we just asked. That's what the Maharam Chalva says. Tosfos, however, I should say, says something a little more sharp and acute. And the Gemarah says, no, there's a reason we don't say that this is talking about only blood. Because the Gemarah that said before that Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina was talking about blood and not about water, and water could make it susceptible to Mekabel Tumah, is only according to the opinion that liquid is not Mekabel Tumah min HaTorah. And when the Pasuk says in Parshas Shmini, every food in the keli becomes tamei, and every liquid becomes tamei, it's not talking about liquid. It means that the liquid, makes the food tamei. That's what it means. Any food, any food that has water on it, and any liquid on it, that food becomes tamei. There was an opinion, if you remember, that tumas mashkin is not min HaTorah. So therefore, the pasuk is actually saying twice that liquid makes food tamei min HaTorah, and we learned that one is for liquid that's connected, water that's connected to the earth, and one is water that's detached from the earth. And the Gemarah says in each one there's a mila. Water that's connected to the earth is in its organic place. Water that's disconnected from the earth is something that you really want. So each one has a mila. So the two yitmas teach me that both types of waters, connected and disconnected, make food tamei min HaTorah. So therefore the Chachamim can't come and say in the butchering section they shouldn't make food tamei. The Chachamim can't eliminate a tumah that the Torah says that all liquids, detached or not detached, could make food tamei min HaTorah. But here we're talking about the opinion, those who hold that mashke is mekabel tamei min HaTorah. So the second yitma in the pasuk is needed to tell me that mashke itself becomes tamei. So therefore I have no source that detached water could make food susceptible to mekabel tumah. And therefore I could say that it's only midirabanan that detached water makes food susceptible to mekabel tumah. And then the Chachamim have a right to say that in the butchering section, that doesn't work. Water doesn't make food susceptible to tumah. And therefore, the Gemarah can't give that answer here, because the water in the butchering section can't make it susceptible to tumah. That's what Tosfos explains here on the top of the Avchaf Amud Aleph. The bottom line is that the water in the butchering section, the Gemarah says, is not enough. So we're stuck with our question: how did this meat become susceptible to tumah as a result of a needle being inside the meat? So the Gemarah tries to give a new answer, a third answer. We rejected the blood, we rejected the water in this section of the butchering section. We have a new fascinating answer. Ela diskasha b'chibas hakodesh. Maybe we're going to introduce a new concept called chibas hakodesh, which literally means the love of the sacred, the affection, the chiba. How does he translate chibas hakodesh? The esteem. Okay, the esteem. Do you want to know how does love make something tamei? That's where all tumah comes from, no? When something has a lot of power, when something has a lot of potential. This is a fascinating halacha that We learned it earlier, you remember, that Chibas HaKodesh is a special love, a special chashivus, a special prominence and esteem and affection in which something sacred is held. And as a result of that, Chazal learned out, it's a sugya later in Pesachim, Daf Lamed Hey, they actually learned it out from a pasuk. It says, V'habasar asher yiga b'chol tameh. The vav is extra, that it includes that when it comes to holy things, it's not just mamish food, but even like the coals, the lumber, the frankincense. You remember we learned the levoina, the eitzim, the gechalim. Even though they're not classic foods, the ketores is herbs. Some of the herbs may be edible, some of the herbs may not be edible. They're all makabel tumah, as though they were food, because of chibas hakodesh, because of the prominence of the kodesh. Some say it's midaraisa, some say it's midarabana. For this, the Gemarah says, maybe chibas hakodesh also says it doesn't need water. Just like chibas hakodesh includes things that are not food, okay, things that are food, like meat, but the chibas hakodesh, the esteem, the prominence of it, makes it susceptible to tumah, even without getting the water. Now there's an interesting thing. Why does food have to become wet in order to become susceptible to tumah? Why? Liquid doesn't. Kalim don't. People don't. I don't have to get wet in order to become tummy. Why my food? Yes. The Torah doesn't say a reason. The Torah says clearly that for a seed, a food to become tummy, it has to be yavai alav mayim. There has to be water on it. Not now. At some point there had to be water, and even if it got dried up. The Sefer HaChinuch says, Sefer HaChinuch is the encyclopedia of all the 630 mitzvahs with an explanation. He says that there's no reason in Torah, but he offers something. And he says a very interesting idea. And he says we have a fact. Animal fodder or food that's not edible for a person is not makabel tumah. What's makabel tumah is always things that are connected to a person. Things that I eat, things that I drink, me, myself, my utensils, my clothes, my cutlery, my kalim. Things stam in the world are not makabel tumah. Because remember, tumah is always a representation of spiritual potential. Right? An animal is not makabel tumah. A living animal is not makabel tumah. It's not makabel. A person is makabel tumah. A dead animal which becomes food potentially could be makabel tumah. Yeah. So generally, it's the connection to food. Okay, there's a lot of specifics in that. We spoke about it in the introduction to the sugya, if you remember, about tumah and tara. But I want to bring out one point the Chinuch says here. He says that most foods, they grow, for example. He says they have dirt. You have a fruit, yeah? You take an apple. It has dirt on it. You take a peach. What makes it edible? You got to clean it off. You got to pour liquid on it and clean it off. That's like the makabeh patish. That's like, just like a keli. If it's not ready, if it's not complete, it's not makabel tumah. Even though it's usable, but if it's not a complete keli, it's not makabel tumah. He says a fruit or any food, if it's not clean, it's not ready. This shows also the sensitivity of Jews to hygiene, even when the world did not know about microbes and bacteria and viruses and pesticides. And I'm looking for one more word. What travels, germs. We didn't have the tools to be able to see these things. But the sensitivity of the Jewish people to hygiene is incredible. Notwithstanding what your teacher told you when you were a child, that we don't believe in cleanliness. You remember? Last time you were here? 2 months ago, before Pesach? You remember? Nothing to do with cleanliness? You see how I remember everything you say?
More than I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Despite that, with all due respect, we are very sensitive to cleanliness. The Bryce at the end of Saita speaks about Nikius. The Rambam speaks about Nikius. For Judaism, cleanliness is not just for health, it's also for spiritual health. In any case, so the Chinuch says it, fascinating, until a food is clean, it's not considered edible. And that's why it's not makabel tumah. That's what the Sefer HaChinuch says. So 1 second. So based on this, the Torah gives a principle. This is just the logic that the Chinuch says. Torah doesn't say this reason. The Chinuch suggests that from the Jewish perspective, it's when the food becomes wet that it's considered food. That's the principle. So now the Gemarah is suggesting something new. Just like Chibas HaKodesh, the great esteem in which sacred offerings are held, that they can become tamei even though they're not food b'chlal. Coals are not food. And not all herbs are food. And lumber is not food. You don't eat wood. Nonetheless, it's mekabel tumah because chibas hakodesh. So I'm going to say something else. That food that's not wet, but it's kodesh, is roy lekabel tumah. Is kasher b'chibas hakodesh. It's roy lekabel tumah. That's what Rashi explains. Take a look at Rashi. If it's wet, for sure. But even though now it's not wet,
Why does it face with the Chaim that it doesn't?
Okay, you're asking now Tosfos this question. Who cares if ein machshin? If it's chibas hakodesh, it's going to get tam. Very good. Good. Great question. Hold on 1 minute. Let's just take a look at Rashi. This kasha b'chibas hakodesh. Chibas hakodesh machsharta lo v'lidei tumah. The Chaim l'meperik sheni the shchitas chulin. Chibas hakodesh mashvela oichel l'kibuli tumah. It makes something oichel, even if it's not oichel. Certainly, if it's oichel, it makes something worthy, susceptible of tumah. So the Gemarah says, wait, we're going to get to your question. Let's say you're right, okay? That's good live sula gufe. I understand you could tell me that the meat itself becomes puzzle, and you cannot offer it on the mizbech and you can't eat it. Why? Because it touched tumah. It's not muksher. Chibas hakodesh makes it disqualified. But here you went much further. Lemimna beirishim v'sheni nami. Is chibas hakodesh so powerful that you could start counting levels of tumah, rishon, and sheni, meaning that this meat can actually confer tumah on other things? For example, if the meat touched a sheretz, it should be called a rishon, even though it never got wet. And if it touches liquid, that should become a sheni. Is that really the truth? And you're going to say that because Reb Chanina didn't say habas or puzzle. Reb Chanina said that the basar that touched the machat is tamei, and we know the difference. Tamei means it can transfer, not just puzzle. So you're really going to say that chibas hakodesh is so powerful that it turns it into the regular category of tumah. If it touched the sheretz, it's mamish like a rishon, even though it doesn't go into the regular category of tumah because it's chibas hakodesh. It didn't go through the regular process. Is that really what you're going to say? In other words, I understand if chibas hakodesh doesn't make it mamish food that's makabel tumah, it just becomes puzzle. It's like a tumah that's a unique kachim type of tumah. It's like a kachim type of tumah. And therefore, it doesn't become a rishon to make a sheni and a shlishi and a revi. Is that really the case? That it's not that way? Chibas hakodesh is like a real tumah? If so, tifshait. So then the testimony of Reb Chanina should solve a big question, the boy Rish Lakish. Rish Lakish asked the famous question in Maseches Chulin, Tsarid shel menachos. Tsarid means dry. Like let's say you're hoarse and you're parched. We call it in Hebrew, what do we call it? Yesh lecha kol tsarud. Your voice is dry, it lacks moist. Tsarid shel menachos means a mincha that's dry. What do we mean? A mincha, a meal offering, was a combination of flour mixed with oil. But this is flour that was not mixed with oil. It's just flour. So the oil did not touch it. So that way, the flour never got wet with oil. Meinin b'rishon v'sheni? Oiloi, asked Rish Lakish. A sheretz, a dead mouse, falls on this flour. Does this flour become a rishon, which will make a sheni, or it just becomes puzzle? And Rish Lakish could not find an answer for this question. Why didn't he bring an answer from where? From our Mishnah. The meat becomes tamei. How did the meat become tamei? Through a needle. But the meat was never muksher. The meat is dry. It's like flour that never touched oil. So he should have a beautiful proof from our Mishnah that chibas hakodesh makes the flour not only puzzle but also tamei. And Rish Lakish does not. Why? Because Rish Lakish believes that this is not a good proof. Remember, the Chazal assumed Rish Lakish would not forget a Mishnah. There's no such a thing. He can't forget it. Rish Lakish forgot. No. He can't forget a Mishnah. How did he not prove it from this Mishnah? The basar is tamei and transfers tumah. The basar never touched oil, never touched liquid. Nonetheless, it's tamei. Why? Chibas hakodesh. The Gemarah learns it out from a pasuk on Pesachim daf lamed hey amud aleph. Vehabasar ashayiga b'chol tameh. However, some say that's only on a smachta, meaning it's a support from the pasuk, but it's not mamash a biblical level of tumah.
So it's not.
There is an argument about that.
How do you expect Rish Lakish to burn it out?
Rish Lakish knew about a Mishnah. If the Mishnah says that the basar that touches a machat is tameh, even though it never became wet, that's a tremendous proof for his question about the dry flour of a carbon mincha if it didn't come in contact with oil. Only the Rabbana. Zol Zayin, only the Rabbana. Maybe only the Rabbana. We are, because he says habasar tameh, not pasal. Reb Chanina said habasar tameh. Tameh means not only does the basar have to go to the fires because you can't burn it on the altar, you can't eat it, but tameh, it transfers tameh. Meaning, if this basar falls into a cup of wine, that wine becomes a sheni or a shlishi, depends on what the basar is.
Now, okay, so the yad is not going to become, the knife will become.
You're right, but the basar became tameh, and the basar could transfer tumah. If I take this basar and it comes in contact with liquid, this liquid will become tameh. Right? Let's say the machat was an ava tumah. The basar becomes a rishon. My liquid will become tameh now. Even if it's a sheni. Remember, by truma and karbonis, the shlishi and avi. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Shmuel. Let me give you a scenario. Very common scenario. Very interesting answer. Going shahoisa parah shel zivchei shlamim. You had a cow that was designated for a carbon shlamim. Vehavira ban nohar. On the way to the Beis Hamikdash, its master walks it through a river. Ushachta. And then right afterwards, it's brought to the Beis Hamikdash, and it slaughters it. Va'adayin mashke tefeach alah. But nobody wiped off this animal. The water is still dripping on it when it was slaughtered. So therefore, the skin of this animal was bedecked with water, went into the river. And certainly, when they open up, they shechten, and then they open up, they skin it, and they start cutting open the meat, the liquid on the skin penetrates, it flows, a part of it trickles down on some of the flesh. This water made it susceptible to tumah. So you don't need blood, you don't need chibas hakodesh, you don't need the butchering section. The cow went through a river right before the shchita. Why? Where did he come up with this idea? And why does he say shlomim? Why does he say parah shel zivchei shlomim? So Rashi tells us something very interesting. Rashi says, tsarit, you see tsarit shel menachas, yaveh shel menachas, makom shloi nagal l'shem shemen, nagal l'sham shemen, tsarit, loshin yavish, v'doim aloi gabe shofar. You want to know why we're learning this before Rosh Hashanah? We have by a shofar, if the sound of the shofar was thin, ava, or tsarit. Tsarit is, you ever hear those shofars? That's called tsarit. And basically, Chazal say, kol ha-kol is k'shayim l'shofar. All the sounds are kosher to a shofar. You don't tell a person how to cry, right? You're not crying in the right way. A cry is a cry. If it's thick, if it's subtle, or if it's parched. Sometimes it's even a deeper cry. Hence, we see that sarud means a parched voice, a parched sound. Menachos here means dry flour. Lahachi nakat parshal zivchei shlamim, lefi sha'or v'habasa l'baylam. By a carbon shlamim, unlike by other karbanas, the meat and the oil and the skin will go to the owner. Umisasek liyafas sa'or v'habasa. So therefore, he will do things to beautify the meat and the flesh. Umavira benar samach l'shchita. He passes it through a river before the shchita, mashkenoisa, so that it should drink a lot of water. We learn at the end of Beitza, when a cow or an animal drinks, it's much easier. There's a lot of liquid in the body. It's much easier to skin the animal. That's why he says a shlamim, because it was common that by a carbon shlamim, where he's going to get the skin and he's going to get the meat, he wants it to be liquidy, so that way it'll be easy to skin, because the oil was a very precious item, very, very precious. It was a very big gift. So that's why the owner is very likely to go through the river, and therefore this animal was wet before the shchita, and that water remains, and because it remains, it trickles down to the flesh. It's very common, and that's why if there was a needle, the basar can become tameh, because the basar did become wet with the consent of the owner and this is real water. And you don't need the water from the butchering section because this is water from a regular river that it passed before the shchita.
So anybody would say a river in Eretz Yisrael, by the time you come from the river to the base of Mikveh, the animal will be dry and will be heated so many times.
No, he's not talking about here the Nile River that goes for 4,000 miles.
There's no rivers there.
I translated river. Any spring, any well, any cistern, any pond, any pool of water, that's what we mean. So therefore it became muksher. So if it became muksher, so of course it's tummy, not only puzzle. That's why the Shlakish couldn't solve the question from this Mishnah, because the dry flour never got wet. This meat got wet. You're right. If you didn't take your animal through the river, and the kohen sees it's not wet, and there's a needle, the basar won't be tummy. You're right. The animal passed through a river. Why did he want the animal to pass through a river? He wanted it to drink, and maybe also to clean it. But even if not to clean it, he wanted it to drink water. But in that process, it walked through. It put its head down. But its skin got wet. Its body got wet. Rashi says that moist, that wetness. Rashi says, look at Rashi. Adayin mashka tefeyachala. Second of the wide lines. V'i efshish la yipul min hamashka la basar kolshu b'shas efshit. It's impossible that when you skin the animal, some of the water on the skin did not. You don't take towels and wipe everything up. It's wet. So now you skin the animal. A little of this water went where? It got in contact with the basar, with the meat. If it got in contact with the meat, the basar became muksher. Yeah. The water in the butchering house there's not machsher. Yeah. They're not going to make the water out from a pond in your shalayim. Yeah.
I would say that unless it's
Oh, that's the next piece. 1 second. Nimtzas beperesh. Reb Chanina continued, if the needle is found in the excrement, hakol tar. Everything is tar. Why doesn't the excrement, which became tummy from the needle, now transfer tumah to the meat? You told me that you went through a river. The animal drank a lot of liquid. So I assume the excrement naturally has a lot of, it's very liquidy. It's still called a liquid. It's not just excrement, because excrement is not makabel tumah. It's not food. It's excrement. But if this animal drank a lot of water, which was your point, that's why you got it into a river. You wanted it to drink, to have a real good drink of water. So I assume this excrement is quite liquidy. There's a lot of mashka there. So the needle made liquid tameh. Liquid touches the basar should become tameh. Why did the Chanina say everything is tar? Amar abad barava, you're right. Beferish ava. You're talking about dense excrement. That's not makabel tumah. Rabashi Amar, no need. Afilu tema beferish raka. Even if it was soft excrement, meaning liquidy, mishum dahave mashka saruach. This can be called putrid, disgusting, abominable liquid, and it's not mekabel tumah, even if it's liquidy. And therefore there's no need to say that it was only dense. So, if the needle is in the meat, it's tameh. The needle is in the perish and the excrement, it's tahir. Rashi says, perish ava, lav, mashke hu. Okay. Yeah. And the Gemarah says, Tani Tana Kamedid Psheshus. There was a Tana who learned in front of Reb Sheshus, meaning this is somebody who knew the Mishnayos and the Brises very well, and he would read them and teach them he would expound on them in front of the sages or repeat them. So there was one of these scholars who taught the following Brise in front of the Reb Sheshus. After the Gemarah discusses the oil with the carbon, the Gemarah now brings a Brise that summarizes the order of Tumah. The order of Tumah. And this is what the Brise says. Very interesting Brise. Listen to this. Sheretz metame es hamashkin, mashkin metame es hakli, kli metame es ha'oichlin, Oichle metame is hamashka. The Brisa says, a sheretz can bring impurity to a liquid, right? The dead mouse falls into your cup of wine. Okay. The cup of wine could now bring tumah to a kli. Okay. Interesting. The keli becomes tumah from the wine. The keli now is tumah. The keli brings tumah to food. Okay. And now the food brings tumah to mashka. V'lamadnu shalosh tumahs b'sheretz. We see that there could be 3 levels of tumah born from the sheretz. The sheretz is the father, the source, and there could be 3 levels of tumah born from the sheretz. The Gemarah says, whoa, I'm completely confused. Hani arba'in. You just mentioned 4 levels, not 3. There was a sheretz. Sheretz touched liquid, number 1. Liquid touched keli, number 2. Keli touched food, number 3. Food touched mashka, number 4. You just said there's 4 levels. So what are you telling me there's 3? You're completely confusing me. You're contradicting yourself. You say there's 3 levels of tumah, but then you just did 4. The Gemarah says, you're right. Mistake. Guz mashka dereisha. Cut out the first liquid. Okay? So we're cutting out the first one. Sheretz touched keli. Keli is 1. Keli touched Eichel. Eichel is 2. Eichel touched mashka. Mashka is 3. There were 3 levels of tumah that were born from the sheretz. So the Gemarah says, wait. Adirabba goes mashka in the sefer. Why is the victim the first liquid? Why isn't the victim the last liquid? Take out the liquid at the end. Sheretz touched mashka. Mashka touched keli. Keli touched Eichel. You're still left with 3. Whatever it takes. Why is the first mashka the victim? Adirabba, let the last one be the victim. Take him out. Says, no. I'll tell you what. We have a problem here. We have no source that mashka min ha-Torah could bring tumah to a keli. Keli min ha-Torah is only avatumah. From an avatumah here, you're telling me that the mashka was matami a kli. I have an issue. There was one opinion, El Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda on Daf Tezayin said that in ha-Torah mashka can be matame not only oichel, but also a keli. But v'hadebe. Right. But v'hadebe. But Rabbi Yehuda himself on Daf Tezayin, we learned he retracted from this position. So that's why we much more prefer to take out the first mashka than the last mashka. Because the first mashka runs us into an opinion that is very rare. There's only one source for Rabbi Yehuda, and he retracted it. So we really have no authoritative source for it. That what? That min ha-Torah mashka b'matama keli. If we take out that first mashka, we stay clean. We're good. Because what happens? The sheretz touched a kli, the keli touched an eichel. That's mamash and chumash. You can't argue with that. The eichel touched mashka. That works according to many opinions. Eichel is matama mashka min ha-Torah, and you're good. That's why we took out the mashka in the beginning, because the mashka in the beginning would force us to make this Tana a singular opinion, because even Rabbi Yehuda regrets it. Any food that's mukhshal l'kabel tumah. Chulin, yeah. Chulin. Good question. We'll learn Rashi. Let's just see the last words of the Gemarah. V'simonach, and I have for you a namanik, a sign to remember this, and my sign in naziyasa. Naziyasa means a keg of beer. Did I get that right? Naziyasa. Beer, okay. A keg of beer. Why is this a siman? How did you make beer? How do you make beer? You took a vessel, you put in barley malt, and then you put in water. And that's how you made beer. So what do you start off with? Start off with a vessel, then you have food, barley malt, and then you have water. So that's the siman to remember the proper brisa. You start off with a keli, then you get eichel, and then you get mashka. Those are the 3 levels. Not you start off with liquid, and then you go to a keli, and then you go to food, and then you go to liquid. You don't start off with that. First you have a keli, then you have the barley malt, then you have the liquid, keli, food, drinks. And of course, in this case, the keli touched the sheretz. That's the siman to remember this process. Now, this is the end of this. So we have time for Rashi. Should we learn the Rashi? Okay, let's learn the Rashi and then we'll stop here. Says Rashi, sheretz metame samashkin. You see?
Third line.
Yeah. Sheretz metame samashkin. Okay, the third line from the top lines. Zakt Rashi. The first thing the Brisa tells us is that the sheretz makes impurity to mashka. Rashi says, how do I know this? Mikal v'chaymer mikeli kedelael. The Gemarah gave us earlier a kal v'chaymer from a keli. What was the kal v'chaymer? The kal v'chaymer was very simple. Mada sheretz could be metame a keli, and the keli could be metame oichel and mashka. So for sure, sheretz could directly be metame oichel and mashka, right? If a keli that touched the sheretz could be metame oichel and mashka, as we say in Parshas Shmini, so for sure, if oichel and mashka touch a sheretz, it could become directly tameh. So that's why it's obvious that this is true. We have a brisa before the Gemarah Daf Yud Ches learned this out in the Kal V'chaim. Okay, next. Umashkin shabo machmas sheretz metamen kli. At this point, we believe this Tana holds that if liquid got tameh from a sheretz, it could be metame a kli. Why? Kediyalef. He learns it out from the pasuk. The pasuk that said that what? A sheretz falls into a keli, right? And then it says whatever is in the keli becomes tameh. So it says, Mikola oichel ashayachel ashayavi alav mayim yitma, v'chol mashka shayishasa b'chol kli yitma. So most Tanaim learn that the mashka that you could drink in any keli becomes tameh. He learns no. V'chol mashka shayishasa b'chol kli yitma v'kasavar that yitame akli min amashka k'dahavadarish lo Rabbi Yehuda mekame dahaderbe. He follows the view of Rabbi Yehuda before Rabbi Yehuda retracted that what? Kol mashka sheyishasa b'chol kli yitma means the keli becomes tameh. It's a fascinating pshat in the pasuk. Not the mashka becomes tameh. Kol mashka sheyishasa b'chol kli. Mashka that you now put into a keli. The mashka got tameh from the sheretz. And the mashka now you put into a keli. That keli yitma, the keli becomes tameh from the mashka. V'darish beinami laha yitma yitame. Now he's going to learn yitma is also yitame. So b'meila v'yalef minei dechoyze kli zeh u'metame esa'oichla. So now the keli, which became tameh from the mashka, which became tameh from the sheretz, could transfer tumah. So that keli could be metame oichel. Could the ashkechen b'chu the keli metamen kol asher b'seicha yitma mikol ha'oichel u'mashma shenitma oichel ma'avik lecheres v'oichel nesamashka. Now, we know that Kalim can be Metame Yoichel, because we have the Pasuk in Shmini, when a sheretz falls into a Klei Cheres, right? So the Avir Klei Cheres now has a sheretz in it. Even if you take out the sheretz, the Kalim became Tameh. And if you put food in, the Pasuk says that the food becomes Tameh from Kalim. So therefore, the Bryce is telling us, this Tana is telling us, sheretz is Metame Mashka, Mashka can be Metame Keli, Keli we know could be Metame Yoichel, and now Yoichel can be Metame Mashka, V'Yoichel Nesamashkin. Why? Because by Eichel, it also says Yitman, he's learning Yitame. So Eichel could transfer to Mashka, just like Keli could transfer to Mashka. Kachu Pirush Abraisa, Lefi Girsas Amayra Shoshana Oisel Lefnei Reb Sheshes. This is, I have to explain the Braisa, according to the version of the man, the Amayra, who taught this in front of Reb Sheshes. Umiyu loy mitartzi. But Rashi says there is a problem here. The Hai Eichel Habamach Maskli, the Ka'amar Kra, the Metame Mashka, Lav mikli abba machmas mashke koi, ella beba machmas sheretz. Because you're learning that the keli is metame oichel. How do you know a keli is metame oichel? From the pasuk in Shmini. But that pasuk that says yitma yitame, which teaches me that what? That an oichel could be metame mashke yitma yitame. That oichel did not get tameh from a keli that got tameh from mashka. That oichel got tameh from what? From a keli that got tameh from a sheretz. We're learning here sheretz mashka, mashka keli, keli oichel, right? And oichel mashka. So you're telling me a keli is metame oichel says in the pasuk, and oichel is metame mashka also says in the pasuk, because it says yitma and we say yitame. So we're good. But wait, that pasuk was different. That pasuk, the keli came from sheretz. And then it was Metame Oichel and Oichel Mashka, not the Keli from Mashka, which came from Sheretz. That's what he says. Lav mikli abomach mas Mashka koi, ele babomach mas Sheretz. That's already a new chiddush. V'tane tani lamadnu shalosh tumas b'sheretz. The Brisa says that we learn here 3 levels of tumah from Asheretz. The mashma, the tumah eleches mizel lezeh umizel lezeh. The tumah goes from the keli to the oichel and from the oichel to the mashke. 3 levels. But v'meihachav amatzinu lemifrechi lebilsa. From this, the Gemarah could have refuted this brisa. But the Gemarah has a much better question because it's more explicit. That what? The katani shalish, the kachashiv arba, that he actually contradicts himself. He says there's 3 levels of tumah, but then he says there's 4. Right? He says shalish tumish b'sheretz, but he gives us 4. That's an explicit. But his question and my question actually is the same exact question. I just asked it in lumdus, and he's asking it in the words. Meaning, Rashi's saying the Gemarah is really asking not just a question of semantics, but a question of teichen. It's not just, you said 3, why are you giving me 4? The point is, you said 3 because you can't do more than 3. Because your biblical sources only let you 3, not 4. And you're putting in a 4th one. And Rashi explains why this is such a powerful question. It's the same question. You get the problem? The problem is from the pasuk we could learn that sheretz goes to keli. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Keli goes to Eichel, and Eichel goes to Mashka. I'm fine with that. You have no source. You have no source that Keli goes to Mashka, and then Mashka could go to Keli. I'm fine with that, because he learns out of Keli. And Keli could go to Eichel, right? I'm fine with that. So the Eichel is what? The Eichel at this point is a Shlishi, right? Sheretz Rishon, Mashka, Sheretz Av. Mashka Rishon, Keli Sheni, Eichel Shlishi, and now you want the Eichel to go to Mashka. You just made me a Revi. Where did you get that from? The Pasuk says Eichel could be Metame, but what? Eichel that touched the Keli, that touched the Sheretz. Eichel that's a Sheni. Not Eichel that touched a Keli, that touched Mashka, that touched the Sheretz. So Rashi says, instead of giving me this question, which is a little more complex, the Gemarah does it simpler. You said 3 levels, but you counted 4, but it's the same question. You said 3 because there's only 3. You don't have a source for 4, so how do you give me 4 when you yourself know there could be only 3? Shalosh tumas basheretz. Which is why the Gemarah, of course, says this was a wrong text, and you have to get rid of 1 level. That's going to be the Gemarah's answer. But Rashi explains beautifully what happened and how the Gemarah refuted it. And Rashi adds, Rashi says, V'oichlin metamenes hamashke. He said that Eichel is Metame Mashka. That was the last level, right, in the Brisa. The last level was Sheretz Mashka, Mashka Keli, Keli Eichel, Eichel Mashka. This makes sense. The Tarish Yitma legabe Eichel and Yitame. He believes Yitma Yitame, the Eichel is Yitma Yitame, Letame Eichel and Mashka. Kid Darish le Rabbi Akiva told us Yitma Yitame. And by the way, who adin the Monsey lemisna ukli metame es hamashkin or mashkin metame es oichlin. Given the isla yitma yitame elachadim inayunakat. He could have done also an opposite order. He could have done the keli that touched the mashka, that touched the sheretz, was metame mashka, and the mashka was metame yoichel. I'm fine with that because the pasuk tells us that the keli is metame mashka, and the pasuk tells us by mashka also yitma yitame. The Gemarah just chose one. The Brisa just chose one, but actually says that doesn't bother me. He could have also done a different direction, right? Keli touches mashka, which touches sheretz, and then the keli touches mashka, and the mashka touches oichel. He does oichel mashka. But Rashi says, but travayu loy motzi lemisnei. But this Tana who says yitma yitami for oichlem and mashkem, he can do both. What do we mean both? The name he can say keli metame oichlem, keli is metame oichel, v'oichlem is mashken, oichel mashka, umashken shabo min oichlem metame nes oichlem, and the mashka that came from Eichel could now be Metame Eichel. That you can do, to make it a Revi. The Halesa B'Kra Filul Rabbi Akiva. Even Rabbi Akiva who says Yitame means a Sheni could make a Shlishi. The Havale Shlishi Oyser Revi. You can't have a Shlishi that makes a Revi. So you can't do both. You can't say, you could say the keli is matame oichel and oichel is matame mashke. Say the keli is matame mashke, the mashke is matame oichel. You can't say the keli is matame oichel, that's matame mashke, that's matame oichel. Right? You're not going to do that. Why? Because you can go till shlishi. The keli is rishon, the oichel is sheni, the mashke is shlishi. Rabbi Akiva said yitma yitame, but you don't have a source that the mashke that's a shlishi can now go back and make a revi. You don't have that. You don't have that. The v'chol mashka sheyishasa atoiche de klei cheres kai. It's talking about the inside of a klei cheres. Shekibel mashka zet tuma min akli. The mashka came from the keli, so it became a sheni. V'chidarshus yitma yitame akati shena oisa shlishi mashkachas minay. Avo shlishi oisa revi lo yalpus minay. Remember, there's a keli that can in contact with a sheretz. So the keli is a rishon. The food is a sheni. The food is yitame, a shlishi. But you don't have that the shlishi is yitame a revi. Sorry, you have to stop here. So the Gemarah says, Hani arba avyin. You have here 4. Ushlishi oiser revi loy mashkachas loy bikra. And you don't have a pasuk for revi. The chiksiv oichel abomachmas kli metame mashke lav bekli abomachmas mashke ksiv ela bekli abomachmas sheretz. Back to our question. The pasuk says that a keli can be metame oichel and oichel can be metame mashke, yitma yitame. But it's talking about a keli that came in contact with a sheretz, not a keli with mashke and a sheretz. V'tana gufe choshev arba, and this Tana gives her 4 tumas. V'tani shalosh, but he himself said shalosh, so he himself knows about his own problem because he himself didn't want to say arba. He did 4, but he didn't say 4 because he knew you don't say 4, you say 3, which is of course a major problem. You can't have such an inherent internal contradiction, internal bleeding.
He's just one of the people who doesn't know how to do.
So the Gemarah says, Guz mashkin dereisha, chatoich mashkin rishonim. Get rid of the first level of liquid. Ve'ema, sheretz matame kli, kli esa oichel, oichel esa mashka. And you know what? V'cheneins durim b'mikra. This is actually the order in Parshas Shmini. For Rabbi Akiva, this is Rabbi Akiva, the Darish Yitma Yitame. Not everybody holds Yitma Yitame. If you don't hold Yitma Yitame, then Sheni doesn't make a Shlishi, right? The Oichel doesn't be Matame Mashka, but Rabbi Akiva holds Yitma Yitame, like we learned Rabbi Akiva, not Rabbi Yosi, not Rabbi Meir, not others, only Rabbi Akiva, Yitma Yitame, and therefore Sheni Yosa Shlishi, who adin the Matzah Lemisnome, the way he could have also done a little different, Sheretz Keli, Keli Mashka, Mashka Oichel. That also works. He only just took one option, but it would have been good the other way also, because Keli can be metame mashke, it says clearly, and mashke is yitma yitame, mashke can be metame oichel, it's good. But the travayu lematzel misna. But you can do both. Keli metame oichel, oichel metame mashke, and then mashke to go back and give oichel, because that would be shlishi revi. Va'asal ashminan, and this bryce is basically saying a chiddush. Your question, the sheni oiser shlishi b'chulin. That sheni can pass tumah to a shlishi in chulin, because the last liquid is a shlishi. Asks the Gemarah, ve'ema, why don't you take away the last mashke? Ve'ema, sheretz mashke, or mashke kli, because b'chol kli yitma kadav adarish le Rabbi Yehuda. A keli could be tameh from mashke, or keli oichel, and take out the last mashke. The darish be'laha yitma keli yitame. Beautiful. Mashkin, the sefer loy tisni mishum de revi loy ksiv. Beautiful. Do sheretz is matame mashka. Mashka is matame keli, because he holds a keli becomes tummy from mashka, and he holds yitma yitame. A keli can be matame oichel, or be matame mashka, which is a gewaldige chiddush, that the keli now will pass on the tumah that it got from the mashka. The keli touched the mashka, which touched the sheretz, so the keli became a sheni, and the keli is now going to make a shlishi, gewaldige chiddush. Va'afal gav the oichel v'adem metame mashka, even though we know oichel is metame mashka, but hachel loy tisnaya, it wouldn't be part of this brayse, the high oichel, the hacha shlishi avoy, because the oichel here would be shlishi, and it wouldn't be able to pass on to the next level. So the Gemarah says, amalei loy ashkech tana, there's no tana like this, v'hachi tidrush kaman tukme. And if you put the brayse this way, we won't have any tana that supports it, and therefore we want to stick to our previous option, sheretz, keli, oichel, mashke, not sheretz, mashke, keli, oichel, or keli, mashke, because that would put us into a very difficult halachic position that has no source, that keli could become tummy from a mashka. Again, min ha-Torah. Min ha-Torah. We're not talking about mashka hazov. Remember that. That's an avatuma. That's different. We're talking here a regular mashka that fell into a kli cheres that touched the sheretz. Or the mashka itself touched the sheretz. So the mashka is not an avatuma. V'simonach kadesh leitita b'sidron. In order that you shouldn't make an error in the order of this brayso, we always need a siman. And the siman is naz yaisa. Naz yaisa is a beer keg. Seder metile sheicha sa'ir. Those who produce barley beer, tchila noisnin kli, first a vessel, achakach oichel, then you got what's called barley malt, and then v'achakach mashka, then they put in the water, absorbing and mixing with the taste of the barley, and you have a wonderful, delicious keg of beer, which will forever remind you when you drink beer. It should remind you that what? How Tumah works. Okay. Have a wonderful day.
It's actually interesting way to
It's interesting. Till now, there was not one siman in this whole sugya. There were plenty of complicated stuff. Suddenly here, 3 levels. It's not so much. 3 levels, right? Sheretz is the one, the father. You have Keli, Oichel, Mashka, Nishka. But suddenly we need a keg of beer to remember it. It's interesting, no? Huh? At the end of the sugya, there was 1 second. Beer will be a good example. There's something here, you have to figure this out. There's a secret here. V'chol mashka sheyeshasa b'chol kli yitma. So we teach the mashka that you can drink in any keli, that becomes tameh. He says, no, v'chol mashka, any mashka, right? Asher yeshasa b'chol kli, which you drink in any keli, yitma, the keli becomes tameh. Yitma on the keli, yeah. Yeah. And if you say yitma yitame, it means the keli could then transfer to the next level.
Right. Oh, so if you learn...
So this would be a big chiddush, yeah. In the pasuk it would mean the sheretz touched the keli, so the keli is a rishon, yeah. The mashka became a sheni, and the mashka is now metame the shlishi, which is the keli. Because yitma yitame.
Back to the kli.
Yeah.
That it's in.
Yeah. So the mashka touches the keli. The keli is a rishon, because it touched the sheretz. The mashka is a sheni. And now the mashka makes the keli tameh, which is very fascinating, yeah.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.